but that took away what I actually wanted to do. I loved being in the lab. Just leave me alone in the lab to do my experiments. So learning what that academic path actually looked like made me feel a little bit lost.
Yeah. Hello friends, welcome back to True North. I'm here with Dr Isabella Hajduk, is it
Hajduk? Yes.
Hajduk. And I know Isa from our Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Commercialization class that I'm doing as part of my Masters. And firstly, I just wanted to say your workshops with Andrew is honestly, I think, one of the best university experiences I've had. Like, it's so interactive. Yes, no,
Wonderful,
great.
good.
It's so interactive. I'm learning so much and like wanting to learn more, especially because it's quite different from science, which is what I'm very focused on. So it's like a breath of fresh air to have your workshops.
That's what I love about this subject as well. I've been teaching it for, I think, nearly 10 years now.
Wow.
And which I'll talk about as well.
Yeah.
But it's just been an absolute joy, and that's pretty much the same feedback that we get every year, that students get a chance to do something a little bit different and think about science differently, which is absolutely wonderful. So I'm glad to give something a little bit different for the students.
Yes. Okay, so our first question.
Yeah, sure.
So when we were talking before, you mentioned that your career involved a lot of change and moving around. Would you be able to walk us through that journey from being a biotech student all the way to where you are now?
Yeah, so I'll start a little bit earlier. I can preface immediately by saying that I didn't know what I wanted to do pretty much the entire time, and even now it's kind of going a little bit of seeing where things take me, but so I always had a bit of an interest in science and maths and a bit of a skill there in high school, and towards my HSC I didn't know what I actually wanted to do, and so just did a bit of chemistry. I did an absolute mishmash of subjects, which is what they say not to do. They try to tell you to make a bit of a direction as to where you're going to go, but I decided to just kind of do the things that interested me rather than anything else. So I did a Bachelor of Biotechnology at UTS. And then went on to do an honours project, which then evolved into a PhD, and then did many things along the way. So it's a bit of a long story. So during my undergrad, I experienced the subject general microbiology and absolutely fell in love with it. Like just looking down the microscope, seeing all the bugs, seeing them grow, and all of the techniques that were involved, I'm just like, yeah, this is definitely the direction that I want to go in. And so that has always been my path to stay in that area. And then during Gen Micro, one of our assessments was a poster presentation that was marked by academics at the university, and they held a poster conference, which the students were encouraged to attend, and the academics that marked the posters were to attend, but pretty much no one did.
Oh no!
Which was sad.
Sounds so cool.
I know, it sounds such a great idea, but it was a second year microbiology subject. Nobody turned up because it was just like a free, not enforced event. But then myself and some other students, some of my friends, turned up, and the marker of my poster turned up as well, and we started chatting, and she was saying, do you guys like being in the lab? Do you like doing research and whatnot? And I knew that I absolutely loved it, and especially in the space of microbiology, I'm like, yeah, definitely love it. And she threw it out there and said, would you be interested in doing some volunteer work in a laboratory? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
My PhD, I was offered the opportunity to attend an international training program, a 2-week training program that was held in Taiwan. And so it's pretty much the subject that you're doing, but condensed into 2 weeks. Completely hypothetical, but there were students from all over the world. So not just Australia, we had Taiwanese students, we had students from PhD students from Korea, from Stanford in the US, and many other places. So I think there was about 40 of us, and put into groups. We had to come up with an idea, very international groups, and pitch it at the end of the 2 weeks. And it was very stressful 2 weeks trying to come up with a
must be.
completely new idea in
Yeah.
2 weeks and then have to pitch it in front of investors or hypothetical investors. But I absolutely loved the creativity of it. It's kind of like what you were saying, where it's just completely different.
Yes.
Get to think about things very differently, which I really enjoyed. And that course definitely was a pivotal event, I guess, in my career path, in that when I came back, Professor Michael Wallach asked us whether we wanted to teach into the master's subject. And so I continued to teach with Michael for a number of years, and then I started to take over the subject to an extent. And once I finished my PhD, he asked me, he also ran another education program for academics. So similar to what that course is based on, but in actual real academic setting.
Wow.
So it's called the SPARK program. It's an international program originated from Stanford, but is now run across the world at different universities. It's all about education and mentoring for academics with projects that have translational potential. So really trying to lift them up and give them the knowledge and the resources to help get their projects across the line and actually translate them into real products.
Right.
So we would provide education and mentoring from all different topics, for example, intellectual property, clinical trials, preclinical, business management and whatnot, and also in pitching and everything. And so really trying to get them across the line. And that project would span for 2 years for each cohort.
Yeah.
So I started working with him as a project manager in that program after my PhD, which was wonderful, as well as teaching at the university at the same time into the master subject. And then transitioned over to where I am now. So funnily enough, in one of our first cohorts in the SPARK program, Associate Professor Andrew Kerr was actually one of our, what we call Sparkies.
Okay.
So that's where actually I met Andrew.
Yeah.
And then Andrew transitioned over from Macquarie University to UTS just before COVID, like I think 2020.
Right.
And in that time, he's done an absolute amazing job with his research group, and then he also took on the role of BIFF director, academic director. So BIFF is the Biologics Innovation Facility, which is a pilot scale manufacturing facility that's at UTS, which we'll show you later.
Yes.
And so he came on board as a director, and then we also were teaching into the innovation subject. And then, it kind of blossomed from there, where he suggested to come over and do some stuff for the BIFF, working as training and skills lead.
Yes.
And that's where I am now.
Yeah.
So having a great time playing with all of the industrial scale equipment at the BIFF and developing training programs, which is absolutely wonderful. So playing into, I guess, everything that I've learned along the way. So both the science side, drawing on my biotech experience, and then also my teaching experience to now develop training for a whole range of audiences, both industry members, students and whatnot. And journey's been pretty fun.
That sounds truly amazing.
Yeah.
Really, such like a very non-linear journey.
Absolutely.
But so do you think what helped you kind of navigate this was just going off of what you were passionate about?
Yes, so I will definitely preface by saying that I've been very lucky and privileged that I've been able to say yes to opportunities. But I think that's where my non-linear journey has come from, in that opportunities have come along and I have had the flexibility and I guess the courage to say yes. And just seeing where things take me. Because I just like to go on a bit of an adventure, both in career and in life. And so I've just been really, really lucky to actually have those opportunities come along and actually be able to say yes to them.
That's really incredible. I think coming just from my experience and coming from my background and how I was brought up, it was a very linear pathway. You do high school, you go to uni, you find a job, and then you just it's like that was the path. I guess the turning point for me was like when I found my job but figured out that wasn't like really where I wanted to be. That's kind of like where I started to branch off.
Yep.
And that branching off was like what was kind of scary for me.
Absolutely.
So I feel like, do you also think just trying new experiences, even if the result isn't guaranteed, is that something you think would be helpful as well?
Absolutely. If the opportunity comes to you and you can say yes to as many different opportunities as you can, because that's where you really learn what you're good at, and two, what you actually like and don't like. And also saying yes, but also realizing when you don't want to be doing something, whether you don't like it or don't align with it, and having that courage to say no thank you and walk away. I feel like a lot of people feel very afraid or whatnot to walk away from something, that they feel like they've committed to something and be like, no, look, this isn't for me. I need to actually go do something else that actually aligns with me. And that's such a scary thing to do, because you feel like, as you said, you think that you're going on this linear path, but then realizing that life isn't always going to be like that is something worth learning and trying your best to achieve.
I think that's such an important point as well, realizing if something's not working, having that courage to say no.
Absolutely, for sure. There's this great video by Professor Yuri Alon. It's a TED Talk, which I'll send to you later, which I feel like came at such a pivotal point during my PhD, where PhDs are definitely a test of character and strength, for sure. Absolutely enjoyable, but definitely stressful years, where you learn a lot about yourself. But there was this one video, this TED Talk, where it was about diving into the unknown of science, where he talks about you're in a linear path, you're going from point A to point B, but then sometimes what he refers to as the cloud comes along, where you go in and you're thrown off your path, and instead of going from point A to point B, you're suddenly being spat out at point C instead, and realizing that that's okay, that even though you were trying to aim to point B, point C might be where you were actually meant to go. And so that cloud has just been kind of really stuck in my head, where it's just like, I feel like that doesn't just apply to science, but to life, to kind of going with the flow and just seeing where it takes you, and not necessarily, like, even though you want to work towards point B, being open to other point C or point D to see where it will take you as well is really important as well.
I think we touched up on this as well, but was there ever a moment that you genuinely felt lost about which direction you wanted to take, and how did you kind of go through that as well? Yeah,
for sure. So I went into my PhD and honours generally, I guess, naive or freshly minded or whatnot, with thinking, yep, I definitely want to be in the lab doing hands-on stuff, doing research, because that's what I absolutely loved. Doing that physical experimentation every day was definitely my sweet spot during my PhD and honours. And so at the beginning, I thought for sure that I would be going down the path of academia, and like looking towards my supervisor and wanting to go down that path. But as I continued through it, I guess the realities of that journey came to me. I started to learn what's actually involved, and started to question whether it was actually for me, because the path of academia, of climbing that ladder up to senior lecturer, to associate professor, and to professor, the higher you climb up the ladder. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone, but generally, the higher you climb, the less you're in the lab. By the time you get to professorship, you're pretty much not in the lab at all, unless you're an absolutely special character that manages to do it all, but it's very less likely. Instead, you'll have scientists under you, where you're managing their projects and creatively adding to those projects and evolving those projects, and which is, I guess, mentally absolutely fantastic, but that took away what I actually wanted to do. I loved being in the lab. Just leave me alone in the lab to do my experiments, see what happens. that's where I really wanted to be. So yeah, learning what that academic path actually looked like kind of made me feel a little bit lost.
Yeah.
So I think the 2-week program that came along was very timely. I actually wasn't sure whether to go on it because it was towards the end of my PhD and it was getting to crunch time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is not the great time, not the best time and whatnot. And my supervisor's just like, look, it's 2 weeks. It's an opportunity for you to go overseas, to meet new people. You have my blessing. Like, yes, you have a thesis to write and everything, but she's like, just go for it.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I think that opened a door for me, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so there definitely was a time that I was lost and I wasn't sure what to do. But yeah, thankfully an opportunity came along. So that's again where if opportunities come towards you, to say yes, especially if they're different opportunities.
Yeah. So I really want to get into your PhD as well.
Sure.
So I know it's about molecular microbiology, and I also really love microbiology. Being under the microscope, like it's a whole different world down there.
So my project was more of a basic biology project where it's more of a gaining an understanding of bacteria and I guess understanding how they function, what's involved and everything of the sort. So mine was very niche, I would say, and very conceptual. So trying to understand the function of some proteins and what role they played in the life cycle of bacteria. So I worked on a specific bacteria called Bacillus subtilis. It's a soil bacteria, a gram-positive, and it's a rod bacteria. And what I was essentially doing or looking at is the role of 2 proteins, Spo0 J and SOJ. Names of genes are absolutely wonderful in science. Always great fun. And so the Bacillus subtilis is capable of forming spores. So you know what spores are?
Yes.
Yep. So they create that hard shell where they can survive extreme environments, whether it's high temperature or whatnot, and increases their survivability in essence. So these proteins are known to be involved in sporulation, but it was thought that they have a role in also cell division. So when the bacteria, they duplicate the genetic material, their DNA, so that starts to split in 2, and then afterwards the bacteria creates a division machinery at the center of the rod, almost like a ring, which I can send you pictures of if you wish.
Yes, please.
And that, once the genetic material starts to divide inside, that ring at the center starts to constrict and then essentially pinches off the cell to create 2 new daughter cells.
Yes.
So I was looking at these 2 proteins to see what role they play in that coordination of that genetic material dividing and that timing of the ring at the center essentially forming and then constricting to create 2 cells. Because if that ring either is misplaced or mistimed, it will guillotine the DNA and essentially kill the cell.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what my project was about. So it was a lot of genetic manipulation of the bacteria, so knocking the genes out and looking at them under different growth conditions. A lot of microscopy, so we would fluorescently tag the proteins of interest, especially the ring, which is called the Z ring. So looking at it under the microscope and looking at it under different conditions to see where that Z ring was forming, whether it was misplaced and whatnot, and then going from there, so collecting all of the information and trying to deduce what type of role these proteins play in actually helping that Z ring get to where it's actually meant to be going.
Wow. So for students that are considering academia and going into PhDs, I feel like a lot of people do romanticize PhDs. Is that true? Or is it like really underestimated?
I feel like before they know what's actually involved, it probably is, I guess, a little bit romanticized. It's nice to come away being called a doctor and whatnot, which is great. But yes, without actually knowing the detail of what's actually involved and the time commitment and everything, it probably is an element of being romanticized a little bit. And so Probably my advice when thinking about whether to go into a PhD is definitely know what's involved. If you have the opportunity to do some level of research before jumping into a PhD, and this will vary from university to university. So for example, at UTS, you can do an honours year, or as others in masters are doing an MPhil, so that's essentially like an honours year within your master's degree. You can also do research electives where you actually do a mini project. If those opportunities are available to you and you have the time and capacity to actually do so, I strongly encourage you to do so, because that time really gives you a nice introduction and snapshot of what research is actually like, because research is not for everyone. Absolutely, whether it is because it's not your skill set or not your passion, you need to be enthusiastic and passionate and actually like what you're doing in order to do a PhD, because it becomes your bread and butter for the next 3, 4, possibly 5 years of your life, where you're earning very little because you're just essentially getting a stipend. It's not a full pay or anything of the sort. You can do some teaching on the side to kind of bump up your pay, but that it will only take you so far, because ultimately this is a 9-to-5 job, and even more, it's something that you take home with you, and that continues into academia as well. It's not something that you necessarily leave in the office, it's something that you're living and breathing. So unless you're really excited about it and really want to do so, think hard about whether to do so. And this is not to discourage people, but just to actually make sure that you're going down the right path, because the last thing that you want to do is start doing a PhD and then leaving. Because it's not fair to you, it's not fair to your supervisor. So knowing that you actually want to do so, and not just because I don't know what else to do, you're better off finishing after honours or your MPhil and taking some time to actually really evaluate whether you want to do so, because you don't have to do a PhD straight after honours or MPhil. You can come back and do a PhD pretty much at any point.
Yeah, that's something that's really interesting.
Yes.
I feel like you just think uni, honours, and then PhD straight after.
Not at all.
But
yeah, absolutely. It's something that you definitely want to do if you actually want to do it and it makes sense to you. Because if you're capable of following your career path without a PhD, then why not? So it's not to discourage people from doing a PhD. I definitely think that it's worthwhile and special, and the opportunities that come about and the experiences that you have is absolutely wonderful, because you essentially become an expert in this little niche that's just your own, which is absolutely special. You learn a lot about yourself as well, that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to do so elsewhere, because the project that you do during your PhD becomes your baby, where you need to nurture it. Otherwise it will fall apart and it will go nowhere. So you need to be passionate about it and push it. You need to have the time management, the project management, the creativity, the critical analysis to push it forward. So it's great. It's a great fun, but there are things that you need to realise before stepping into that zone. I think that's also something that I was blindsided by, is just how much stress about finances, especially
just
admin stuff, but also applying for grants. So I had this very romanticised view that you go into university and you become a researcher, and the university is essentially paying for your research, but it's not. You're applying for grants from granting bodies for funding for your project, so you're constantly having to be really on top of the science, to really be able to see the gaps in the knowledge, to ask the right questions, formulate really well thought out questions around it, write the grants, which of course you want to be doing in science anyway, but it's so unbelievably competitive.
Right.
At the time of me doing my PhD, I think the success rate for grants was around 10%.
Oh my goodness.
I think now it's even smaller. It's fallen below 10% success rate. And so the resilience, that's absolutely another thing that you learn during your PhD, and also you have to maintain through academia, is the resilience to work your way through those things, and be strong about it, and see failures not as a personal failure, but just simply a learning experience is really important, because otherwise it will knock you down.
Yeah.
It's not a reflection of you. It's just a reflection of the state of things at the time when you were applying.
So PhDs, you have your hardships. You have to know if this is something you want to commit to.
Absolutely.
Experiences like your honours and MPhil would be a really good starter point to see if this is something that you would want to do.
Yes.
Another question about like the niche aspect. So when I was thinking, is like a PhD for me? Is this something that I want to do? And I spoke to some other people about this as well. They were saying with research and a PhD, it is like very niche, and you do become an expert in one type of thing. Do you think this is difficult to kind of transfer that into other career paths?
No, I don't think it necessarily locks you in. I think it depends on what you want to be doing. So having that expertise, if you're looking to go down into academia, becoming an expert in an area is what you want to be achieving. If that's not the career path that you want to be doing, then that does not hold you back necessarily from going into other areas, because what you learn during your PhD, yes, you become expert in a little topic, in a niche topic, but along the way you're picking up a lot of technical skills that are absolutely, and soft skills as well, that are absolutely translatable to many different areas.
Right.
So all of the time management, the project management skills, the communication skills, the both verbal and written skills are so sought after. I remember during my PhD that there was actually a number of non-science-based positions that were really eager for PhDs, just simply because of the skill set that you do learn during your PhDs. So all of those soft skills are very sought after, like for example bank management or something of the sort is it may not be the most obvious area, but you can definitely, you really hone in on a lot of those skills that are very sought after during your PhD. So in that circumstance, if you're willing to be brave and step out of what you just necessarily expected to go into and look beyond necessarily the knowledge basis, but more so the technical skills and the soft skills that you can bring to a role, you can definitely spread yourselves out and use that PhD qualification to your advantage.
Wow. So at the BIFF, when you're training students, could you go over what type of the skills that students are missing, like in terms of like going into industry? So I think I can speak from experience as well, having worked in a hospital micro lab. Aseptic techniques is something really important. I feel like when you're like at uni, like it's okay to like make a few mistakes here and there, but when you're actually in the industry and working with like patient samples and avoiding contamination at all costs, it is like really important.
Yes, and that attention to detail, because as you said, you're handling patient samples or potential medications or anything of the sort. So attention to detail is absolutely necessary. It's not something that you can zone out on. You need to remain focused. Having, I guess, a bit of a curiosity about how things work as well. So just thinking about my role in the BIFF as well as my previous experience, like throughout my PhD and whatnot, a lot of things are becoming automated now, especially in research, which is absolutely fantastic to see where technology can take you. But sometimes with the advancement of technology is that loss of foundational knowledge. And so that's, I think, one thing that we want to be getting across in our training is to actually understand not just what you're doing, but how it's coming about, how it works, because ultimately understanding how things work, when something goes wrong, you're much more capable of troubleshooting and figuring out why things go wrong. And I think that's one thing that, just looping back to your previous question about PhD, that romanticised, you're not just constantly pushing out results, especially in wet lab research, so microbiology or cell biology or anything of the sort. The huge chunk of your research is all about setting up experiments, troubleshooting and whatnot. It's only a small amount of your research that's actual the critical experiments that actually give you results. So having that resilience and that motivation to keep going and to push things through is definitely necessary, and also I feel like applies to anything. So it may be less emphasized in industry, but having that knowledge to actually be able to think things through is definitely necessary.
Yeah. So as we know, your career spans research, teaching, project management, and now innovation training. Do you ever worry about not specialising enough? Or do you like the broad variety that you do have?
I think that's a very interesting and great question, because there definitely is an element of, especially with, I'd probably say more in women, an element of imposter syndrome a little bit, as well as, at least for me, I think probably everyone does it to some element, is comparing yourself to others to see where you are in life and whatnot. But I think where I've gotten to now and the experiences that I've had, that I don't care. I don't have a niche or a specialty as others. There are maybe some times that I might look at others that have taken more of the traditional path and that are now of similar age to me, and they're like an associate professor or something, and I'm not. But I think at the end of the day, if you're happy with yourself and you enjoy what you do, and you can put food on the table, and you're getting fulfillment in what you do. Me personally, I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. I actually enjoy calling myself a bit of a jack of all trades, not completely, of course, but nonetheless, I like the variety of skill sets that I have, and being able to wear those different hats, because I think I have a tendency to maybe get bored a little bit, and so by being able to kind of switch between things fulfills me personally. Others maybe less so, and so if that's your goal, then go for it, but don't hold yourself to other people's career paths, because everyone's path is completely different. No one is on the same journey or on the same timeline, so don't hold yourself back by comparing yourself to others, for sure.
Okay, if you could give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that be? One, you're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. And also lean in. I've gotten to where I already started to do so by the time I was 20, to slowly start to say yes to opportunities, but I'd probably just say keep going with that. Lean in, say yes, be quirky. I think one of the things is that, especially in your early 20s or teens, is that you're still trying to figure yourself out. You're much more influenced by other people's opinions. I'm weird, I'm quirky, and I'm okay with it now. If somebody doesn't like it, I don't care. So just be happy with yourself, because ultimately you only have yourself to answer to at the end of the day. So be happy with yourself, ultimately. One very last question. So my true north as part of this podcast, what I defined as my Northern Star to help me navigate to my own thing that I find really personal, is working in infectious disease and public health, just kind of like that general area. And I feel like just having that idea and accepting that I can take any road as long as it gets me there, I think really helped give me clarity in what I wanted. Do you have your own version of a Northern Star?
My true north is more so, I guess, about feeling. And that feeling of feeling content, not complacent, but content with life in general.
Yeah.
So waking up every day and feeling good to go do what I'm going to do on that day, how my lifestyle, my relationships, and all of the other, and my work, and how that all fits together as a puzzle. That everything kind of fits together. There's still wiggle room for growth.
Yeah.
But feeling content with how everything is fitting together. If I'm feeling happy with myself at the end of the day, I think that's ultimately my true north.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much
for
your time, Isa. I'm so grateful for this.
No worries.
And your willingness to have this conversation with me. I think you've given like such amazing, like invaluable information and insights into what you do.
Wonderful.
I know that it's really helped me understand like PhDs a bit more and the academic world a little bit more. So having that insight is really great. So thank you so much.
Very happy to do so.
Yeah,
wonderful. You want to come down to the BIFF?
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
We can gown up, we can pop in.
Yes.